Recording started.
Hello everyone, it's Jason Pegler here, and I'm really honoured today to be speaking to probably the fittest person on earth, Mirinda Carfrae, so far 3 times World Ironman Champion, and possibly many more to come. Hello Mirinda, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for catching it up with me.
This is really exciting. I'm really excited to chat to you. First, I'm very interested in personal development and understanding the psychology of success. Could you just spare a moment in just trying to let people understand what makes you so good at what you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty tough question to answer, but obviously kind of a question I get asked a fair bit. I mean, I think it, generally goes back to, your childhood. I grew up in a family of 6 kids. I was 4th, and we grew up on a farm as well. Very active childhood. Played basketball fairly competitively in Australia through till when I was about 18, but I didn't grow past 5'3", so I was always the hardest working athlete on the team, but maybe overlooked a lot because of my size. And then once I finished high school, I was kind of looking for a new challenge. I started university, and I met some triathletes and basically was really intrigued with what, the sport entailed, 3 different sports, really tough, and also the fact that it really, if you wanted to be good, it was really all on you. And that really appealed to me, I think, because coming from team sport for so long, I always felt that, I always was one of the people that would do the extra training, I'd do the extra individual sessions, I'd stay around after practice and shoot around. I would be happy to do all the extra things, whereas, some of the girls on the team, were maybe a little bit lazier or didn't have as much drive as I did. And, with triathlon, it kind of seemed that the person who put in the most work, the person who was willing to suffer the longest, the person who basically, just dotted their I's and crossed their T's, would get across the finish line first. And the fact that if you do cross the finish line first, nobody can take that away from you. It's really, in team sports a lot of the time, picking teams and so forth comes sometimes down to politics and subjective. Whereas, you cross the finish line first and you've won the race, and, there's nothing really anyone can say about that. So I think that was my first reason for moving into triathlon. And then I think I had a natural ability to run well. Never really ran as a child. I didn't really start running. I mean, I was very good at running. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't see the point in running if it wasn't after a basketball or up and down a course or around a football field. But yeah, running certainly came very naturally to me. And, with cycling, it sort of seemed that, you're locked into the pedals. It's not so much about technique or form, more about doing the time and putting the work in and building up that strength. And then the swimming's always been the one that's been tough for me. But, yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question, but I think, there are many different factors that go into making you the person that you are as you mature as an athlete and as a person.
So it sounds like you're very driven as a person and very hard-working and very focused and obviously very talented as well. And you must also have a huge amount of belief. Can you describe, there must have been a moment when you must have thought, I can be world champion one day, or when did that moment arise? Was it when you first heard about triathlon, or did it take a little while to think about, or were you just so focused that you just ended up doing it?
No, I mean, interesting enough. I mean, there was definitely when I first was kind of invited to join this triathlon team. I mean, I didn't own a bike at the time and never really swum before, but I had this overwhelming sense of just excitement. I remember I went off to work. I was working part-time and also studying at the time, and I just remember I felt like I was on top of the moon all day, just so excited about this new opportunity. And I've never really felt that way or that excited for anything else before. So I mean, when you have feelings like that, I feel that, that's something telling you that, okay, you're on the right track, you're pursuing, the right goal here. And then, but, again, I had no indication whether I'd be any good at it at all. It felt right. And then once, I started, doing the work and training, and the success actually came fairly quickly. I did my first race in the summer of 99-2000 in Australia, and then by 2001, I was in the Australian junior team, and so, maybe a year, a little over a year after, first taking up the sport, I was representing my country, and for me that was massive because, spending, 11 years playing basketball, I was able to play for my state, and I was pretty good in my, in the city where I played in, but really was never anywhere near representing Australia for basketball. So it was kind of like, okay, I found my sport, and it kind of just went from there. That first World Championships, I was in Edmonton in 2001. I think I finished way back because, again, the swim was such a new sport for me, and I was competing against, ladies that had been swimming, since their childhood. So that transition was tough. But then the following year's World Championships was almost a year and a half later, because I think we had Edmonton in July, and the following November it was Cancun World Championships, and that year it was Under-23 World Championships, and I finished second that day. So coming second in the World Championships, my second attempt, my second Australian team, that was pretty big, and I think that day I beat Nicola Spirig. We were in the second pack, and we ran shoulder to shoulder the whole race, and then I was able to outkick her for second place. So that was huge, knowing that she was already a superstar in our sport as a junior. I think she'd already won a world title, and really the premier junior athlete at the time, and to be able to beat her when, really I was still built like a basketball player, and still really learning triathlon. That was another, really massive sign that, I was on the right track.
It's really interesting. So was it your plan all along to go up in distance, or because you stayed in the ITU circuit for a couple of years, didn't you, till 2005, is that correct? Yeah,
that's correct. I think I might have done one last race or a couple of races in 2006. But basically, I think I did my first half in the Australian winter in North Queensland in 2002 before I raced, or maybe it was, 2002 before I raced Cancun a couple months before. And I finished second there and ran like a 1:21 off the bike, which at that time really wasn't being done, by women. So that was a great indication that, okay, running longer off the bike is my strength. And also in training. I mean, I was training with some very good juniors, and I never seemed to break down, and I could keep going kind of all day. So I kind of felt that long course would be where my talent would lie. But again, I wanted to make sure I, made the steps slowly and progressed through the sport. But yeah, I mean, I had my eye on Kona, probably by end of 2002, 2003, but, there wasn't any plan to move up in distance anytime soon. It was just, that's what I wanted to go and do. And again, the women that were winning at the time were like Natasha Badman, and I think athletes like that, and they were late 30s, or even 40 years old. And at 23, I was looking at those women and saying, okay, well, they're the best long course women are early mid 30s. So I felt that I needed to make sure I was strong enough and able to race over the distance. So I sort of was very patient with my approach.
So, and during this time, so it sounds like it's obviously an approach that, seems to have worked extremely well. So was it really about building your strength and stamina and getting all the, enough training behind you so you had enough base as well, or is that how you saw it?
It definitely was that. It was also the fact that, I really was enjoying doing ITU racing. I was really just learning how to race, travel and race and live in different countries. And I was in the Australian Institute of Sport at the time, and without their funding, I don't think I would have been able to experience racing overseas. And, I was just basically, still learning how to be a professional athlete. And basically by, I think, 2005 or 2006, I stepped up and did a few halves because I wanted to start, making some money, because the ITU racing really wasn't paying the bills for me, because, again, the swim being a bit of a struggle. In ITU racing, it's draft legal, so if you get out of the water, a little bit behind, then it's really tough to catch up to the front, and things really had to fall perfectly for you to have a great race. You couldn't really dictate when you're not getting out of the water first. But yeah, I definitely took a more intelligent approach to racing Ironman, just like studying or like learning about the best or the greats in the sport and how they got to the top and how long they've been racing for, and listening to anyone who would talk to me about it on their approach or their take or their advice, and it kind of just kept coming back to, I wanted to be competitive when I stepped up to Ironman. I just didn't want to make up the numbers, and fortunately 06 was a perfect transition for me into half distance racing, because that's kind of when I was ready to move up, but I didn't want to go to Ironman yet, and the 70.3 series started up with the World Championship, so that was a great stepping stone for me to continue to work on, racing halves and getting super strong at racing halves, and then, finally believing that I was ready to make the step up to Ironman.
And then you were winning 70.3s quite regularly until you won the 70.3 World Championships, and that's when you went to do your first Ironman was the first time you did Kona. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, yeah. Yep. So I did do IT Long Course World Championships in, I believe that was 2005, and in 2004 I did Nice Long Course, which at that point was the old long course distance, which was 4K swim, 120 kilometer bike, and 30 kilometer run. So those two events as well gave me a good indication that I wasn't silly in thinking that long course racing was where my talent would lie, because both of those races went very well.
Of course, because you won Nice as well, didn't you? And
yeah, I won Nice. That was a big day for me. That was very exciting for me to win that race, because again, I really didn't know if what we were seeing in training would translate into racing, and that race really showed me that I could compete with some of the best long course girls in the world.
Can you just talk me through the first time you won the World Championships Kona, and just talk me through, say, just from the night before the race and the race itself, and talk us through how it felt to try and relive how it felt the first time you won, because obviously it was an amazing experience, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to even just back up a little bit from that. Racing in 2009 was my first Ironman, so that race I just, you're kind of nervous, you're kind of feeling out the distance and kind of figuring out how to push. I think every Ironman I do, I kind of learn that maybe I can push the envelope a little bit harder and stay intact. 2010 came around. I felt like I knew what I was in for. The year, it couldn't have gone better. I think, I don't know how many races I won, but I just felt like I was just in great form. And all year, everything was just ticking along beautifully. We got to the World Championships. I was in great shape. I was excited. Obviously, you have the usual pre-race nerves, and the standard craziness that goes on in the week of the race there in Kona. But then Saturday morning, get up, ready to race, and I think 30 minutes before we started, we got the announcement that Chrissy Wellington wasn't racing, and that was like a massive shock to me, because I basically spent the whole year thinking about racing Chrissy and visualizing racing her, because obviously she was the 3-time champ at that point, and undefeated in Kona, and basically undefeated over the Ironman distance, and she was really my target, and that kind of was a massive shock to learn that only 30 minutes before jumping in the water. But I was pretty absolutely over the moon with the way my race came together, and I think I had the best swim of my life. I got out with pretty much the lead pack, Leander Cave, Didi Griesbaum, a bunch of, better swimmers over the long course. So that set me up for a really good day. I had a pretty solid bike ride, and then got off the bike and ran about a 2:53 marathon, which gave me the title. And honestly, it was crazy. Like, you believe all year, or you visualize winning all year, but then when it actually happens, it's still so surprising, because so many athletes are visualizing and believing and trying to get that same end result. So you tell yourself all year that you can do it, but until you actually do it, you believe it, but you don't really know what it would feel like, or what it would look like. And to be able to run down Elite Drive with my country's flag and take that world title in only my second ever Ironman attempt, I was blown away.
So it sounds really interesting, because a lot of people visualize it, but obviously there's only one person who can win it. So you obviously visualize it better than anybody else. So what would be really interesting to discover is how you visualize. You say yourself that you tell yourself that you're going to win it. Do you like when you're training? Do you see yourself crossing the finishing line first? Do you celebrate winning while you at the end of a training session, or for example something like that, or is it just constant every moment of every day that you're focusing on the sport? You're just trying to get the best out of yourself and being in the moment.
Well, I think the first thing is, if you want to win Kona, everything has to be about Kona. I think there are a lot of athletes that want to win Kona, but maybe don't 100% believe they can win Kona, so they might focus on some other big races throughout the year as well. But I really believe that you need to put all your eggs in that basket, and you need to eat, sleep, and breathe Kona all year long. And even backing up, as I told you earlier, I had my eye on Kona back in 2002, 2003. I kind of knew that, I watched the race every year. I very closely followed all the athletes. And so having those images and thinking about that race for so many years, I think I'd been doing triathlon almost for 10 years when I won that world title. Well, basically, 10 years, and thinking about Kona for most of that time. In individual sessions, Kona's the race that really excites me. So, like, if I'm out running, I'm in a hard session, they're the visuals I go to, and thinking of running out Elite Drive, or even just like at the hard sections of the bike course or hard sections on the run, and I can put myself in that moment. I can feel exactly what it feels like in that moment, and I let myself go there when I'm training hard, and that really excites me, and I think that's what drives me day in, day out to do the training and keep pushing and stay on top of all the little things.
That sounds fascinating, because that to me, that that could be, apart from your natural ability, that could be what sets you apart from everybody else, because what you're saying, if I think I understand, is that when you're in a training session, you're taking yourself to a deeper level of pain during your training session, so you can get the most out of your training session that other people would be prepared to go.
Well, yeah, I think every athlete's trying to get the most out of themselves in each training session, or whatever, each like super hard training session, key session. You can't go there all the time, but there are sessions where you do want to go there. But I think I'll go out on easy runs sometimes, and I'll just start thinking about Kona, and I think just all of that visualization and seeing yourself, running on Elite Drive, running out on the Queen K, and bringing back those feelings as much as possible. I think that just puts your mind and body together on this quest to go and do that race again.
It's really interesting, because I spoke to Dave Scott, and he was saying that a lot of people will say that they feel the pain and try and blank out the pain, and Dave's words was that he says that's baloney, because you've got to accept the pain and feel the pain. And then when I spoke to Mark Allen, he was saying something completely different, but what Dave was saying was right And what Mark was saying was right, because the way Mark would say that he would disassociate and, think about what a beautiful place he was in. But at the same time, he said, well, there's 1,000 times I wanted to give up on the race day the last time I went, but 1,001 times when I wanted to carry on. And that's almost the sport, isn't it, really? It's just such a hard thing because it's such a long day.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's no hiding from the pain. You certainly, try and keep your focus as strong as possible. I think when you're really in the moment and really focused, that's when the time goes really fast, and that's when you're able to sort of have that tunnel vision. And, the pain's there. It's there no matter what you're thinking, but it's just a matter of, channeling, your positive energy and just trying to focus on the task at hand and not, constantly be thinking about how much it sucks or how much it's hurting, because it does suck and it will hurt. But, you just have to get on with it, really.
I think I heard you say in an interview somewhere that giving up isn't in your comprehension, because giving up would create so much more pain in the long term than carrying on and going through the short term pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Earlier in my career, I've done races where I know I haven't given my best, and walking away from those races, you're just so disappointed in yourself. You've let yourself down, and that's not the person I am, and I would prefer to go through a brick wall than let myself down. Any pain that you go through in a race is far less than the pain of knowing that you didn't give your best.
And is that what one piece of advice could you give to an age group who are doing, maybe doing their first Ironman, or someone like myself who's done two and has been not got the time they wanted both times, but is going to do another one just to try and get the time they think that they're capable of? What one piece of advice could you give somebody to achieve what they think they're capable of?
One piece of advice, that's tough. I don't know. I think, we can sit here and talk about, visualization and all that sort of stuff, but I think at the end of the day, you just got to break the race down into small parts and just do your best at every single moment in that race. If you can do that, which is much easier to break the race down and focus on smaller parts. If you can take, the race on mentally in that regard, I think you'll look up at the finish line and find that, hopefully you will have done the training that you can get that best result out, or the time that you deserve.
That's incredible advice, thanks. I guess everyone else must be just terrified of you when they're racing you, because they might get a bit of a lead and then you just keep coming and coming. And even this year I remember staying up watching it from England, and it was sort of 10 miles in, and then suddenly you were catching everyone each mile, and then suddenly you were just catching everybody a lot quicker. And then when you were overtaking people, it was like you were on fast forward, and everyone's still trying, and you're on fast forward. It's unbelievable, really. How do you run that quickly? How do you do it?
Well, I think I think that goes back to I do have a talent when it comes to running, and I think also I'm very good at pacing out my day. I don't overwork the bike. I work as hard as I can on the bike without jeopardizing my run ability. I've also spent a lot of time, making sure I can nail my nutrition so that when I get off the bike, I'm in the best shape possible, fueling wise, so that I don't have to worry about, eating too much on the run. I can kind of just top up along the way on the run. So I try to super compensate on the bike so that I can get off the bike pretty well fueled, and hydrated to be able to put out a decent run. But I think I tell my friends, I think my real talent is resistance to injury. I've been in the sport since 99, 2000. I've had no injuries my whole career. And I think, that's good genetics, that's good biomechanics. And it's also listening to my body and being smart over the years, and taking rest, taking time off when, my body needed time off, and also great coaching. My my coach is a mastermind at reading when athletes need time off, or and tapering and getting the best result out of you on race day. I think it's just a combination of things. Some people are very talented at swimming, some people are super talented on the bike, and mine's the run. So I think
you must have a great technique as well. You must just have a lovely running technique that just works. Yeah, very, very efficient. I think, efficiency, obviously, the longer you go, the more important efficiency becomes in running and using, as little energy possible to get through that run, not wasting any energy, I should say, throughout the day. It's really interesting. Can I ask you do you have any other sporting heroes or, other people that you see as mentors in your life, things that you read? What are the kind of people inspire you outside of triathlon?
Yeah, growing up, Michael Jordan was obviously huge when I was playing basketball, and we even got NBA games on TV in Australia. So I always really followed him, and he was basically the best of all time. And I've watched a lot of documentaries and a lot of his videos, and sort of just gotten insight into his approach on life and his attitude. So that was definitely an early big influencer. And then moving into triathlon, I was mostly just focused on other triathletes. So Loretta Harrop was, a professional triathlete, won silver in Athens, and I was able to meet her personally and kind of get an insight into what it takes to be the best in our sport, and she was another big influence in my career within the sport.
Interesting. And your congratulations, you're married now, aren't you, to Tim? And
yep.
Are you planning on having any superhuman children coming in the future?
Absolutely, yeah. We would like to start a family, but that's probably in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time. It'll really depend on how my career is going, whether I'm still feeling that I can improve as an athlete, and whether I'm still enjoying it. And at the moment, I can't see myself giving up anytime soon. But we definitely want to start a family in a few years.
I guess you must have at the back of your mind or the forefront of your mind that you've got 3 titles. You must be thinking, can you get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or even go with the magic 9?
Yeah, 9 might be a stretch. I don't know that anyone's going to get up to Paul's record, but at this moment, I'm focused on trying to get another one. So the focus is trying to get 4, and then we'll reassess if I'm able to get that 4th one, and go for more. But really, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to find my potential and in Kona. So basically, my whole career has been about racing fast in Kona and trying to get my best performance out of me on that one day of the year. And I believe I still have it in me. So while I still believe that, I'll keep racing, and if that means another world title or 2, then that would be amazing. But yeah, that's kind of what I try and focus on.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Mirinda. It's been really inspiring chatting to you today. Thanks for sparing the time, and thanks for inspiring all of us to just aim to be better athletes and just reach our potential. You really are an inspirational person. Thank you so much.
Well, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for reaching out. I enjoyed the interview. Is a lot different to a lot of the interviews I've been doing recently, so I appreciate it.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Cheers, thanks. Bye.
The caller,
Jason Pegler,
has gone.